Hello, my name is Shani Schwinn, and I am a student here at Full Sail University in the Game Design Mastery Program. Today I will be presenting a game concept called Origami Wolf. Origami Wolf is basically a story that is based on a little boy that has an illness and he ends up passing away from the illness. And this is where his spirit starts to leave his body. There's a weird wind that comes around his room, and that is his spirit leaving through the window. But it gets caught on an origami wolf figure that was sitting on the windowsill, and it ended up falling to the ground. And as you're falling, the character comes to life, and you can see yourself falling, and then you hit the ground, and that is when the game starts. So basically, you know that you need to get back up to that window because that's where you were. You got to get back to where you were. And then the story moves on from there. You can get, I think it's 4 different endings depending on what you do in the story and how you interact with the world. So as you go through the world, you get back to the bedroom and you realize that's me, I'm dead, and that you can get one of the however many endings there was from your experiences in the game, and that is the story in a nutshell. So as for the rating, this story is T for teen. And I have it that way because there are some things that aren't really for children that are under the teen years. So 13 plus is my goal for the audience, that it's going to be entertaining. Basically, you need to be able to understand general game controllers. You need to understand the controls to use on the keyboard and mouse or the controller, and you also have to be able to understand the experience you're having. So it's more for people that are above 13 or 13 plus anyway, to understand this game. As for the kind of game that I'm going for, this game is supposed to be a horror, has some horror aspects in it, but is more based on the journey along the way. And this game is a game that I got the inspiration from for this game, as well as the POV that I wanted to give. So I want to have you, as the player, be able to see the origami character. So this will be a third person point of view kind of game where as you go along this whole journey, you get to go through the backyard and the levels. However, it is seeing yourself and actually playing, and it's basically just a sense of this is you, and I want that to stick through the game. There are going to be points where the camera is fixed, but mainly it's going to be third person point of view game. This game is Lost, what was it? Oh, Lost Ember. Lost Ember is this game. Lost Ember I had inspiration from, as well as other few games for mechanics and for story, so we'll get to that later. But this is going to be my camera point of view, something like this kind of third player point of view. And then Lost Ember, it has the mechanics of going to places and finding these memories, and that's what that's based on. As for my ideal audience and the demographics that I'm looking for, it doesn't have a certain exact demographic I want to aim for. More so just if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're a they, them, whatever you identify as, you can play it. Stories are for everyone, and I live by that. But as for the ideal audience, you would want to like some horror. There are creepy creatures and stuff in this game, and you would like to have like stories in the background that are not a main story. It's a secret side story that you can achieve as you go through the game. And then if you're an appreciator of art and stylized art, that is also going to be in this game too, with the switching up of levels, because there's going to be origami based areas that are stylized from realistic areas. So you understand that that is the way you want to head and that's where you want to be. So then we have our game loop, our core mechanics, and our game goals. So basically, this is the whole game system. This is You start the story, you follow along the guided path to get the first memory, you collect the memory, and then you repeat that until you finish getting the pieces of memory to unlock the new area. Then you go ahead and you hide and sneak around enemies that will be searching for the memory's light. Once you grab a memory, then you will be basically being hunted, and that's where the horror aspect comes in. If you end up getting captured, though, by the enemies, you basically have to restart and retry. That is in the little diagram here. That is basically you start, you follow around the game and the memories, and then you collect all the memories, you hide and sneak around the enemies, but if you get captured, you try again. That is the game loop of failure, I guess, at this point. Um, as for my game goals, my game goals are you want to make it back to the bedroom, and that's the end of the game. So your primary goal is to make it back to the bedroom, and then the sub goals would be to collect the memories and unlock areas that make you progress through the game. The moment to moment is basically, as I explained in the game loop, you follow the story path, you collect the memories, and then you survive or evade the darkness as you go around the levels. So that is the whole basic idea of the game goals, the mechanics, and everything else. As for the kind of feedback that you're going to get, when you're playing the game, you're going to get every kind of feedback. You're going to get visual feedback, audible feedback, and you're going to get haptic feedback from controller. If you use a controller, it will vibrate. So basically, you know how if you play Call of Duty or something and you're shooting, and the controller vibrates, and that's what's going to happen when an enemy is close to you, or you're running or you're stepping in gravel or something, then this will vibrate. Just to give a little bit of immersion there. And then as for audible, you will hear things like the growling and sloshing of these corrupted creatures, and then you also see them, and all the visual aids will lead you around the levels. Also, one more thing I did not mention, if you do not play on controller and you decide, I don't want to play on controller, I don't like controller, I'll play on the keyboard instead, keyboard and mouse. If you have a RGB keyboard like I do, one of the Razer keyboards, this is a Ornata version 2, it has the ability to actually work with games. And this is why I decided to choose the platform that I chose for my game. As for controls, as I said, you can use keyboard and mouse or controller. Controller is the basic controls on here, the console menu, the menu pause, the right trigger to interact or hide, left trigger to sneak toggle. Memory journal is on where the menu usually is, on the left middle button. Then you got the regular movement, and then you got the camera movement when it's not fixed. So that's for the controller. Then PC, the usual concept of movement, how you move. WASD. Menu is the menu and pause on the escape key. You got the camera movement with the mouse, and then you have Q, E, and R. Q is the memory journal. It's easy to reach from your movement, so you can click it and then unclick it to have a fast access to it. Interact and hide is E, so again, fast interaction, and sneak toggle, fast interaction. I put everything really close so you don't have to reach very far or use your other hand off your mouse, so you can have a fast reaction to most situations. So that is all for the controls. As for my platform, I decided to choose Steam, not only because of the RGB setup that Steam allows for these games, but also because of the universality of Steam. Steam is universal, and usually you can find a lot of different games on Steam. So I decided to use Steam against something else, because Steam already has the achievement structure. It already has the RGB systems that you can use, and it's also universal, where people all over the place can find your stuff. As for why someone would even search for this game or a type of game like this, this is why this game is so special. So basically, if you ever questioned yourself on if your life was good or not, or if you should have done something else. Do not live in the past. That is the basic idea of this game, is you're not living the past. You're having the life flash before your eyes kind of deal, where you're seeing all these memories and you're going through your life and you're realizing I had a really good life. There are some bad things about it, but I need to move on. And that is the whole point of Origami Wolf, realizing that you had a good life and it's time to move on. So you can either go that way or pick one of the other endings, and that is if um, interact with a whole bunch of stuff and find a bunch of secrets and you realize there's more to life or something like that. And it's as you play the game, so there's different ways to get different endings. Because of the way you play the game, it will depend on how you play the game and what ending you get. And that's sort of like a survey kind of. As you go through the game is going to be analyzing you and your choices and what you interact with and what you do in the game. And that will steer its way around toward the endings that you will choose. In the end, this game is so special because it's sort of like a self reflection on what your life is and how it could be better. Or how you can understand and learn that your life is pretty good and you need to cherish what you have right now. With that, is there any questions or concerns about how this game is being set, and any suggestions? So, as a backlog of what we learned here today, here are a few things that I think would be good to bring up. So, in basic terms, my game is about moving on and being okay with what had happened in the past, going through those memories and living in that moment of, I had a good life and it's time to move on and reflect on what had happened and let it go. So that is the message on what the game is trying to communicate to the player, is that it's okay to reflect on your past, but do not live in it. Move on, collect those good memories, and be ready for what's coming in the future. And that is how you dream of tomorrow. But living in 2 days' time is going to be better for you and your mental health. Do not sit and live in the future when there is a tomorrow and a future for you. Unlike how this character is, sadly, the game mood is a sad undertone of a beautiful story in which this little boy notices that all the hardships that he went through, it didn't matter. At that moment, he was living his life over again through his memories, and the life that is flashing before his eyes is a good one. And he's learning to move on as he sees these memories. And as a player, you should understand that what this little boy is going through, anyone could go through in real life. People that have illnesses that they know that they're dying, then they see the world as what they deem as beautiful. We can look at a sunset and be like, wow, that sunset's gorgeous, but we cannot sit there for an hour and draw that sunset exactly from every shade as it goes down and learn to appreciate that moment in life. As human beings, we become impatient and we don't want to wait for the sun to go down. But someone that knows that maybe they only have a week left to live, that 1 hour is going to be the best hour or one of the best hours in the rest of their life for them. And I think that's a baseline of the mood of this game and the emotional tone that it brings, is that it's a bittersweet ending, that it's the little boy that barely had any life but had so many good memories to live on that he is going to be no more. Um, and that's a strong thing to think about. So having this uh, horror aspect is more of the fear of dying and the fear of what's on the beyond. And that's, I think, is pretty interesting. So basically, the whole story is just based on the little boy having an illness, the little boy realizing, I'm dying, I'm just gonna lay in bed and die. And he didn't know that he was gonna die that night, but when he laid down to go to sleep, his body just gave out and he ended up passing away from this illness. And then he just suddenly woke up again as this weird origami creature, and he's like, what's going on? I thought I was in my room. But he doesn't know that he is the boy. He thinks that the boy was his friend because that's what the origami was. It was a best friend slash really emotionally attaching toy for the little boy. So the little boy's toy, or the origami wolf, needs to get back to the bedroom, and that is the whole story of the game. And as they go through this, they realize that it was them, and as the memories play, they slowly relive their life and realize that's me. And that is the whole story of the game. So I think it's a little difficult to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow for some people, but I think it's a beautiful, beautiful concept. So when you are a player playing this game, this is basically what you're going to go through when you start the game. So when you bring up the game, it's going to go through the little screen, developed by blah on engine blah, and then it'll pop up this screen, which is the title screen. Remember means to start the game. Forget means to exit the game, and settings is the settings, obviously. So if you go into the settings, you'd get another screen, and this screen would be the video, audio, subtitles, and the back button. The subtitles would be automatically on, as I explained in a past video. This is on because of streamers and YouTubers. They usually want the subtitles on, and this game is a experience that I think would be better with subtitles anyway, especially because you can turn off the dialogue, which you will see in the audio menu for a minute. So you can go to audio, and you can go to video, and you can turn on and off the subtitles. If you go back to the title screen. So you go into the video, you get the gamma, shadow quality, and the texture quality. It depends on what kind of computer you're running. You may want to turn those down or have them at max. My computer would probably be able to do it at max because it's a very simplistic game. It won't be huge like, Assassin's Creed, or a game that's like, that one game called Journey, I think it is, where it's a huge, huge world, and it needs a lot of things to be able to run that. Your computer needs a lot of things to run that. So, gamma, brightness, basically, shadows, and textures, just to move them to what your computer can handle. And then if you were to click the back button, you'd go back to this screen, the video, audio, subtitle screen. And then if you click the audio, you'd be going into the master volume, the music environment, and the dialogue settings. And those are, again, sliders that you can adjust up and down for whichever you want. The music environment is obviously lower than the rest of it because the words are important for a narrative game. And then the music and the environment are side stones where you get that experience each step of the way through this game. Is the music will have some input in it on how you should be feeling when you're seeing the memories and such, but it's not the overpoweringly important aspect of the audio, especially when it's, going to be overpowering the dialogue if you turned it up too high, to the point where you can't hear it that well, and that defeats the whole point of the story. Then again, if you click back, you go to this screen, click back again, you go back to the title screen. So this is basically just the whole concept of this game comes out of a few different things. I got some other stuff to talk about in a second, but I just wanted to go through a small flowchart of what you just witnessed. That's the physical version of the menus, but this is the breakdown of the menus. So basically, you start the game, you get to the main menu. You can either exit the game, which is forget, or remember, which is start game, settings, video, audio, and then it moves into the video being the gamma, shadow, and texture sliders, and then the audio being the master volume, music, environment, and dialogue sliders. That is the basic principle of how this menu functions. So as for the user interface and everything here, this is really all you have. There's not going to be a big hub or anything that tells you like what's in your inventory or anything. There's not really an inventory system in this game. So this is basically all the menus that you're going to have, besides I guess the pause menu when you're in game. That's just as I explained earlier with the escape or the pause menu on the controller. It's not going to have any craziness. It's literally just going to be the main menu or to exit, because this game is supposed to be done in one setting. It's a really short game, really short. So you don't have any saves. It saves automatically with checkpoints. So when you start the game, you got to finish it out from there to the end. That's how this game is supposed to be played, or it will mess up the immersion and the story. Because if you leave and then come back, you forget what the story was and whatever happened, depending on what kind of person you are. Personally, I'm not a very good person at remembering things, and having memory issues myself. I've played video games and then left them for about a month and came back because I remembered that I had them, and all of a sudden I have no idea what the story was and where I'm at. So then I have to restart the whole game to even understand where I'm at. So this game is not supposed to be like that, and that's why it does not have a save game or a load game, because it's supposed to be just set in one setting, and there is not going to be multiple people playing it. It's only for one person, so there's no save slots. It's just automatically saved throughout. You can either start the game or you can continue the game, and it will remember that you already played the game. So if you did leave or it crashed, you can click on it again and it would go to the same save. And that's how the menu and the saves work in this game. So as a little bit of a breather, we have to take a look at a few things. So when it comes to the system breakdown of how Origami Wolf is, we have the memories, the 3 memories that you got to piece together, and then we have the enemies that you have to get past by using your sneaking abilities or your hiding abilities, your running abilities, and this is all your abilities, not a game ability. So you have to know when it is a good time to be sneaking or to be hiding, and when it is a smart time to run. Then you unlock new areas with the memories. So that is a breakdown of how the systems work through the game. You just gotta find the memory, pick it up, it'll automatically be with you, and then you have to find the rest of the memories, they'll automatically be with you again, and it'll take those at the very end and piece them together and unlock the new area. So as for the way that the mechanics are broken down, you only have to worry about mechanics that are basically goal driven, because in this game you have goals, which is to get to the window, that's the primary goal, or to get back to the game, but your main mechanic is to get those goals, which is find 3 memories. It will tell you in a little icon, find 3 memories, and then, it won't tell you to sneak past the enemies, it'll just say that you found 3 memories, and then it'll say find the exit. So then you start heading toward the exit, and then the enemies start spawning, unless you backtrack. That's another mechanic of the game. If you backtrack in the game, or you end up going through somewhere that makes you go through it again because something happened, an event happened to where you have to restart in the area, then it will end up spawning enemies because of the origami creatures that you meet. They end up getting corrupted over time, and that is basically how that works for that mechanic. As for the feedback that you get from the game, you should shelter your understanding of how the process is for receiving feedback in the game. Audio, visual, all the feedback that you received from the game should help you understand how you progress in the game. And that just means that you see where you need to go. You see the enemies, you have to sneak past them or you have to hide from them, and that is how that works. And basically, as the boy's soul, you evade the corrupted creatures and move on. That is the whole mechanics of the game on how you progress through the levels. So this idea came from a few different games that I actually want to bring up. So this is because of the inspiration I got from these games. As I mentioned, as I mentioned here, with the one game that I have, let me bring it up right now. So the one game that I have is called Lost Ember. And Lost Ember is this game right here. Lost Ember is where I got the idea for the memories, partial idea for the memories. Because of Lost Ember, this is where this game and the game concept came up from, because this wolf character, a lost spirit, has to find different memories of their life, and that's what this game is about, as you can see in the game pictures here, the game art. It's a really beautiful game. It's really great. I definitely suggest you check it out. But you basically explore the remains of a fallen world, and it has a really, really amazing looking world. But I'm not going to get that deep into it. It's just, this is where I got the basis of finding memories in a stylized world. And then on top of this, there is another game that I got that idea from it as well. And that is Among the Sleep. Among the Sleep is a horror indie game that has adventure in it and is also about collecting memories, but it has the aspect of these creepy creature that is following you because of a issue with the parents having some kind of divorce, it seems like, in the game. Spoilers. And then in the game, basically, you just have to go through it and find these memories and burn them in this furnace. And that is where I got the idea, again, for the memories, and this time for the inky black creepy character origami things. And that is where I got this inspiration from. So the mechanics, I actually got inspiration from something else, and that is Outlast. Outlast is a horror game. It's a horror survival game. This is more on the creepy side, not so much adventure side. Outlast is basically a game that you go through this insane asylum, and in the beginning of the game, it literally states you can either run, hide, or die. So those are the mechanics of how you basically face the enemies in my game, is that you have to run, hide, or you'll die. There is no other way to get past any of the enemies. You cannot fight the enemies unless there's something special happening in a cutscene. You will not be able to survive these enemies. You cannot fight against them. So run, hide, or die. So that's all I wanted to show you for the things that I ended up doing for inspiration. As for the level design, basically, once you start the game, you get zoomed into this window. You can see an origami wolf and the little boy laying in bed. As a cold wind just wisps through the room, suddenly this origami wolf falls, and as it's falling from the window, the camera is following this origami all the way down to the ground, and boom. So you're on the ground, and then you start playing. You realize, I just fell from that window. How do I get back up there? I need to get back up there. And that's all you're thinking about. So then you, as the origami wolf, you move toward the open space in the fence. And as you get through the fence, then you come into the first level, which would be the backyard level. So there's a house on your left. You got bushes and fence covering around the whole area as a fairy ring. Um, and then you have the koi pond to your right. You can see it through some grasses. You got a garden all the way out towards the left side by the porch. Then you have the sandbox and the tree house that you can see out in the distance too. So you basically go up to the porch. It tells you you need 3 memories to unlock this path. So then you know, okay, fine. I gotta, go from the porch out to the koi pond. And it'll tell you in a little box where you gotta go. So then you go out to the koi pond and you have to jump across these little rocks to get to the first memory. You go ahead, grab that first memory. There you go. One of the goals completed. You got 1 memory. Then you have to go to the sandbox. It'll tell you in a little icon to head to the sandbox to find the next memory. Then you go to the sandbox. You search through the toys that the little boy left around the sandbox, and you find pieces to the next area, which would be, I think it's a key piece. If not, then that would be in the treehouse. I'm pretty sure you find at least 1 key piece in the sandbox, and then you go ahead and find another memory in the sandbox. So now you have 2 memories and you have a key piece. So when you go over to the treehouse, then you got to find the other key piece. Then you have to also find the other memory. And once you find the other key piece in the memory, there's a door on one of the second trees, which is on the right side after you jump over a broken bridge, that you can unlock that door, get down inside of the tree trunk, and find the last memory. Then it tells you to go to the garden. The garden is where all these creatures start popping up. You have a bunch of origami creatures that are animals, but they're corrupted. They have holes in them. They're all inked out, like as if someone wrote a letter on them and crinkled them up and then unfolded them and tossed them into water. Sorry. But basically, that's how the character enemies look like. And you have to, again, you cannot fight them, you have to run, hide, or die. And when you run and hide and you try to sneak around them, if you get caught, you have to go back to the next checkpoint. So after you get through the garden, finally you make it to the porch. The porch takes the memories and unlocks the next area. And as you collect these memories, a memory pops up. You can actually see a memory of that area. So you'd get a memory at the koi pond. The koi pond would show the little boy and the origami wolf doing something. And then the sandbox again, treehouse again, in the garden. That's basically just where you go to get to the ending. And right outside of the garden, then you get a memory that has you basically led toward the porch, and then you just let this memory play out until it ends and it opens the door into the house. So once you get into the house, here's a few simple wireframes. Once you get into the house, you come through the kitchen door. The kitchen door is the door that's all the way on the top left of that screen. So what you're going to have to do is these X's are origami corrupted origami, so they're enemies. So that enemy will see you. You have to run. So you're gonna run, and suddenly another origami creature sees you. You gotta run around that origami creature and make it to the living room. The living room has a couch, a table, a TV set, and a door all the way on the far right of the room. So as you run into that door, another origami creature sees you on the left side. You have to run toward the origami creature you can see in front of you, take a hard left, go around the table just enough to get away from the creature, and run into this weird, just paper white origami styled room. And it's completely blank. All you see is these stairs that are headed up into a doorway, and it's almost somewhat dark in there. So it's this doorway with huge light just shining through. So then you're going to go up those stairs. Suddenly, oh no, the main enemy is in front of you. And as you walk toward this enemy, though slowly it starts getting agitated as you're walking toward it. And as you move forward, this depends on if you're going the route of the usual ending. As you come towards it, it starts to fall apart and just melt into this sort of like a ink pile, and it slowly falls out and then just seeps into the floor. You have no idea why that happened or what happened to the origami monster. That was literally the main enemy that you could not run away from. It would almost kill you instantly if you came in contact with it. But something that you did along the way made that happen. And that's pretty much the true ending of this game. So you go ahead and go past, and you see the body of yourself, and you realize as you piece the memories in your mind as the character, you go, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm not me anymore. And as it goes through this little narrative of that realization, then you have two dressers on the right side of you, the bed in front of you, and a chair, something in front of it, like either it's going to be a box or a desk, and then you jump up there and sit back on to the windowsill, and basically you just say, okay, I know that I wish I didn't have to leave now, but I had a great life and it's okay. And then that is the pure ending and the true ending of this game. Then the body of the origami wolf sits still, stops being animated, and it's back to a normal wolf. All you see is a little bit of blue sparkle that is on all the memories float off of the origami wolf, out the window, and into the air. And then the screen fades to black. So that is the whole level design and breakdown of the game and the level, and how you get up to the first floor, or sorry, the second floor where the little boy's body is. So with all of that in mind, it sort of has that horror aspect when you have to run away from these enemies or hide from them in the garden and sneak around them. So I think this mood board that I created definitely embodies this game. Definitely because of how it's supposed to be intended in the mood. As I said, it's a bittersweet ending, and it's supposed to be in a grayscale. So all of the pieces of the mood board is grayscale because this is how it's supposed to be. Remember, the little boy is dying. He knows that he's sick, and he is reflecting on his life as he goes through these memories and realizes that it's okay to let go and ascend to somewhere else, somewhere better. And just the thought of that is sort of saddening but rejuvenating at the same time when you realize that you don't have a lot of time on this earth, and the little bit of time that you spend should be things doing what you love. It hits you a little harder than you think, because then you have the time to go back and look on your life and think, wow, I did a lot, and it's crazy. And I guess it is time for me to move on, especially when you're someone that is actually fighting an illness, a death sentence illness, like something like cancer. It's hard to think about. And the little boy, I'm not saying that he had cancer, but he had an illness. That's up to interpretation. That ended up being his demise. And no matter what you do in the game, no matter what you end up, doing, whatever ending you get, that will always be an aspect that you ended up not coming back. That's just how it is. Life is short, and we never really know when our end is going to be. Outside of the mood board, the emotional storm that Origami Wolf is, as depicted by the thunderstorm that is on its way during the game. You want to get inside because you don't want to become these corrupted origami animals. You don't want to be like them. You want to be yourself, and you want to move on. The people that decided not to move on and to live in their past and let everything they had happen back then to them corrupt them is basically what those origami creatures are. The ones that are inked out with words of frustration and anger, and the ones that didn't make it to where you made it to. So that is the whole of the aesthetic of Origami Wolf and the meaning of the monochrome style that the Origami Wolf game is in. As for the technology that I'm going to be using for this game, for the aspects of creativity like animation, 3D character design, the atmosphere designs, setting designs, that will all be done through Adobe Creative Cloud. I have extensive experience with Adobe and Adobe Creative Cloud, so I feel the most comfortable working with their stuff. If I can do it in their systems, I will. As for the game engine, I'm going to be using Unreal Engine just because I know it may be a little harder than some other engines like Unity, but it comes with better quality, and I'd rather have a harder learning curve and better quality than lower quality and an easy time making something. That's just, I guess, not how I flow. And then we have Trello. I'm actually using Trello right now for setting up everything. So we would be using Trello to basically plan out this game and its progress. I use Trello for almost anything that I have to do when it comes to creative projects. It's really easy to use, and I just prefer it over organization through notes and other things like that. It's so easy, and it's very versatile, has a lot of different things to do in it, and you can use it for literally almost anything, even a daily planner. As for what I'm going to be doing for the version, I'm going to be doing GitHub for my version control, so that I don't have a lot of experience in. However, I have done a little bit of research on it, and I think it'd be a good candidate for what I am looking for a version control. So we would be using GitHub for the version control. So that is it for Origami Wolf. I am always open to any questions. Feel free to comment down below if you have any questions, because this is going on my YouTube channel. And so thank you for your time. These are all my references. Most of the references, or all of the references really, are the pictures. Any other pictures that were not referenced with a little text below it or somewhere around it during the video was not needed to be credited, because those photos were actually free to use from a website called pixels.com. I definitely recommend it if you're going to be doing creative videos like this. So thank you for your time, and hopefully you have a very, 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 very good day or night wherever you are. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.